What's going on, guys? Ted Teskey here with WGM Productions. Today I'm going to be going over a quick and brief tutorial on how to use the Reverb plugin that comes with your Pro Tools bundle. Just in case you're unfamiliar with what it looks like and how to get to it, basically you're going to go to Inserts, go to Multi-Channel Plugin, come down here to Reverb, and you will see the Reverb option. When you click on Reverb, you will get popped up with this interface here. Again, if you are yet to be exposed to this and if you haven't seen it, I will very quickly go over the parameters within the top section here. The first thing we have is the output meter. That's basically going to indicate to us how heavy our signal is coming in. So if it's a little bit too hot or the signal's coming in a little bit too warm, we can come down to this input meter here to adjust the output of the signal. So if I take the input down, it's going to take the output of the signal up here at the top down. If I take the input up, it's going to bring the signal up more. So basically what you want to do is mess with that accordingly based on what you're trying to do and how weak or heavy your signal is. Secondly, we have our mix. For this example, I'm going to be setting up my reverb on an aux track. I'm going to show you guys how to set up the aux track and how to tie it in with the sends and the bus. So basically, since I'm using this on an aux track, I want to keep my mix 100% wet. This allows for me to use my pop-up faders on my vocal tracks to adjust how much of that reverb is actually affecting it, opposed to using this mix right here. If we use this mix, it's going to actually bring up, you know, the volume per se of the reverb, when really what we're trying to do is affect it, or increase it or decrease it over time. So secondly, we have our algorithm section here, which is basically some presets that you can use. We have hall, church, plate, room 1 and 2, ambient, and non-linear. If you notice that when we click on these, our size and our diffusion, our decay, our pre-delay, our high frequency cut, our low pass filter, all these selections here are automatically adjusted and modified according to the algorithm that you set. So for this tutorial, I want you guys to more focus on just the output, making sure that it's not coming in too heavy here. Adjust it accordingly with your input, keep the mix on 100%, and what you can do is mess around with the algorithms that come with the plugins so that you can hear the differences that the sound make. Over time, you're going to come up with your own preference. You'll get more familiar with diffusion and decay and pre-delay, but for now, just focus on your main 3 parameters up here, which is output, input, and mix. Algorithm and size as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is delete this aux track. I'm going to show you guys how I set all this up. So basically my first goal here was to add a reverb to these vocal tracks. If you notice, I do have verse 1 right here and verse 2. These 2 tracks that I have selected are my 2 vocals that I actually have highlighted and looped over here in my edit window. So if you notice right here, I have these vocals looped. I'm going to use them as an example today. I also have my beat track down here. I have it highlighted and looped in with the vocals for the sake of the tutorial and the example. So what we mainly want to do here is we're focusing on trying to bring some life and a little bit of brightness to the vocals. We want to make them sound like they're maybe in a larger room, bring overall let them sit better within the mix. So the first thing I want to do is, if I'm trying to add reverb to these vocal tracks, verse 1 and verse 2, I'm going to want to set up an aux. That's the first thing I want to do. So in order to do that, you can come over here to track at the top, click new, and what you can do is set up a stereo aux track. Okay, it's going to be aux input. You'll click create. Once you pop up with your aux track here, the second thing you're going to want to do is go to inserts, go to reverb, and find your Reverb plugin. So once you have that popped up, make sure your mix is on 100%. I usually start with the input, set it -4 dB just to see how it sounds. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a couple of sends on my vocal tracks. So I'm going to come over here to my send section. I'm going to come up here and select an available bus. In this case, it's going to be bus 1 and 2. And again, I'm going to copy that same action over to verse 2, since I'm trying to affect both of the vocals. For those of you that are unfamiliar how to copy and insert or ascend, you can hold down Option and drag it with your mouse, and it will duplicate the same action you just performed. That's definitely beneficial if you are setting up reverbs or EQs or compressors and you don't want to have to take the time to try to duplicate the same parameters that you had set on the compressor before. So once you have the send set up on bus 1 and 2, the second thing you're going to want to do is come over here to the input on your aux track. Okay, so your input needs to be set to the same bus that is set up on the sends. So if your vocals are going to bus 1 and 2, you want the input to be bus 1 and 2 on your aux track. Okay, so now what's going to happen is you notice that when we set up these sends on the vocal tracks, we got a pop-up fader. This fader is going to be what allows for you to adjust the impact of the reverb. What that means is if you want the reverb to affect the vocal more, if you want the reverb to decrease, or how much do you want it to actually play a role in the mix, that's what you're going to use to adjust it, opposed to using the mix control right here. So keep the mix on 100% wet, and you can go ahead and mess with this fader to adjust the reverb. I'll show you how I do that in the example. So again, if you are unfamiliar with how to bring the fader to unity gain, which is 0 dB, you can actually do an Option click. So hold down Option, then click the fader. It'll bring it to unity gain. I usually like to start with my faders on unity gain as I'm getting going with it, just to give me a good start and good indication of what's going on. So again, that's Option click. That's where I'm going to start. And what I'm going to do is put this reverb here on bypass. What that's going to do is pretty much mute the reverb. So what you're going to be hearing is the vocals without the reverb. So I'm going to play a couple seconds of this mix here for you guys. This is a mix that I'm working on right now, actually, for myself. It's a hip-hop genre. It's a composition. I already composed the beat. I brought it in as a single track. Now I have a couple of vocals that I'm working on over the beat. So basically the first thing I'm going to do for you guys is play this with the reverb on bypass so you can hear how it sounds. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the reverb on the vocals so you can hear the difference. So here we go.
American conspiracy, most of us are mindless. Columbine High School, that's a day in history. Freshman year in high school, it was early fall. It was 9 a.m., I watched the Twins.
So as you can hear, or you may or may not have heard, the vocals to me sounded a little bit dry. They sounded like they need to fit better in the mix. And also, I'm trying to add some clarity here. I want to bring the vocals out a little bit. I can possibly mess with my algorithm section down here on the reverb, maybe mess around with the church and the plate to go ahead and adjust the parameters to see what my vocals sound like. So now I'm going to take the bypass off, and I'm going to play this again for you guys while the reverb's on. And if you notice, while this is playing back, I'm going to adjust this fader up and down so you can hear the reverb actually increasing and decreasing. Okay, so immediately you should be able to hear these vocals sit better within the mix, and also it's going to sound like there's a lot more clarity to the vocals, some life, some brightness, and that's overall what I'm looking for today for this example. So here we go.
American conspiracy, most of us are mindless. Columbine High School, that's a day in history. Freshman year in high school, it was early fall. It was 9 a.m., I watched the Twin Towers fall. Ever since that day, I felt I'd never be the same. Rest in peace to everyone we lost on that day. The soldiers in Iraq that had to feel the pain. For every parent grieving that'll never live again. May God bless your soul. You never know when your time is up. You'll never know when you go. The media is falsified, so we will never know. We only see the TV or the Facebook news feed. I'm shedding tears on the song, please help me. I'm feeling like there's something more to this mystery. This is a long, dark time in our history. When will we all realize this conspiracy?
So as I'm sure you could see, as I was toggling with this fader up and down, immediately when it came in and I soloed it out along with the rest of the vocal tracks, you could hear it come in at max volume. At first it was evidently too loud, and what I did is I brought it down and then brought it up, and at least from my perspective and what I was hearing, the mix really sounded good right about negative 15 dB, and what that did for me is gave me a good perception of where I was trying to go with the song. So again, this is just an example of how I use the reverb on my vocals, but overall I'm getting satisfaction out of using this Reverb plugin because it's simple and it allows for me to pinpoint the mix as far as my vocals and try to add some clarity and bring some life to the mix. So again, my name's Ted Teskey. I am a recording engineer, audio engineer out here with WGM Productions, and I appreciate you guys tuning in on this short tutorial on how to use the Reverb plugin. You guys have a great day.